Oh, hey everybody, it's Conscious Medium Brandon Ross. Thanks again for all of the outpouring for yesterday's stream of consciousness. We've got to follow up with a strong one today. Today we're actually going to be talking about the congressional testimony that kind of got wrapped up in the January 6th insurrection. Not to be lost on this is the numerology and the cyclical part of the day, where his plan, Trump's plan, actually started on December 19th, 2019, to kind of overthrow everything. It's crazy. Well, it's 2 years, 2020 rather, 2020. Well, 2020 was the insurrection date, but it's a pretty incredible look at this. We've got to deal with Pluto return. We got to deal with taking a look at the congressional members. We're not going to go that deep into this, but that is an interesting proponent. I actually really like Liz Cheney for a lot of reasons. Kinzinger, another one. Raskins. You've got these players that just stood up to this and said this is the right thing to do. You don't have to agree with their politics here. This has been the slow bleed of a country for 4 years, and they finally said that's enough. What does it have to do with our Pluto return? What does this have to do with us actually surviving as a country? I'm about to show you the astrology of it. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, a little self-promotion. Again, thank you. If you made it this far, I know you're going to like and subscribe the channel. Share with a friend. Let them know what kind of really cool astrology stuff I do here. Today's a one-day sale. Literally, you're seeing this during the one-day sale if you're watching the premiere, if you're catching it even into the next morning. But after the solstice, it's gone. It is the lowest rate to be able to get a reading from me, whether you want to talk astrology, whether you want to talk about mediumship. Mediumship's been on fire. I'm so connected right now. I feel great about it. Talk about the book, talk about whatever, but this reading is about you. You've been buying everything for everybody else all season. This is a you gift. This is a you gift. So jump in and get it now. All right, guys, let me jump into this here. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Couple of things. We're going to take a look at a couple of different charts in a couple of different ways. We're also going to look to turn off all of the other sounds that are going on in here because I'm a professional. And that's the reason why 101 people. And by the way, thank you again. Another comment on this one. Yeah, heart taps to you guys. I really appreciate all the outpouring about that conversation about Twitch's chart. It was an honor. And I know that the right people are going to see this. And guys, if you need me, just call. And you know who I'm actually talking about. The person that just went, okay, I'm okay to call him, then there we go. We're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's insurrection plan. We're going to talk about the astrology of that day. And then we're going to talk about how the United States heals. I mean, guys, we're going to jump right into it. And by the way, I'm going to have my first ever three-way chart. My first ever three-way. I'm just telling you. Just telling you. I don't like to brag, but here we are. All right. So listen, let's take a look at the insurrection date itself. This was a really kind of interesting day to be Donald Trump, right? Here he is. He's like, we just have to have the vice president do the right thing. No, actually, what you do is you don't call state governors and tell them that you need another 30,000 votes and, all that other horse hockey. He's a grifter. He's a bullshit artist. Anybody that's seen this for a while. This was our fear, by the way, the people that were not supporting Trump from the outset. And I had hopes. I saw what he was, but my hopes were that he was going to rip the Band-Aid off and be like, here's a file on Area 50 something, and I'll just release it to the public. But I wasn't supposed to do that. Like, I was kind of hoping that his dipshittery was going to, give us some disclosure. Like, that was the one thing. Like, here's all the don't ever show this to public 9/11 stuff. Like, that's the stuff I wanted from him. I didn't want him to take classified information to Mar-a-Lago so that then our soldiers and otherwise agents we're going to be in severe danger. I mean, now you're just being an asshole. Um, and I stand behind that. But taking a look at the astrology of what's going on with him, a lot of emptiness. Now on the inside of this, and by the way, it's a transit chart on the outside of it, but it really should say Insurrection Day, January 6th, the Jan 6th, the 1/6, all of the nifty things we like to kind of call it. He, of course, was born in Queens in 1946, June 14th. He's a Gemini, everybody. By the way, did I not tell you guys that some crazy stuff was coming with Mars and Gemini in retrograde? Huh. Well, I'm about to show you why. So we've got a square going on with Mars, right? On that insurrection day. Mars is currently or was on that day in Sagittarius. So you had a lot of this impulsive energy, this go, go, go impulsive energy. And it was in his ninth house. So it's about how do you want to learn your lesson, jerk? Right. And then you have the square to his natal chart, which means that it's like it was in conflict. So the Leo Mars is about getting stuff done. It's about like, I'm gonna get this done. All right. The Sagittarius Mars is about like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna do it. Right. Where the Mars in Leo, and again, you can see that in his sixth house on the inner wheel, and then you see the outer wheel is in the ninth house. So you got the sixth and the ninth house activated, forms a square. We're in square energy there. You got two fire signs, right? So the Leo is about like a confidence, like a ha, I'm going to do this, which is why his bravado is all over the place, right? It's called BDE for those of you that are into it. But on the other side of that, with the Sagittarius, it's almost like the Page of Swords. It's kind of like that energy is just swinging the sword everywhere and going, look at this, I got a new shiny thing. He thinks he's kind of like I'm going to be all about this. I'm going to be all about how we're going to do this, how we're going to get it done. You also have the disillusion of Neptune. You got to pay attention to Neptune. You got to pay attention to all the planets. But when you see major mistakes, and we talked about this with the Twitch video. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, please go back and see it. It's worth your time. It's sitting here on the rising. So you're on the Pisces rising, right? Where it's kind of like a creative energy. Well, guess what? Causing an insurrection, doing something that's never happened. I shouldn't say never, but it's never happened like this. The evidence that Congress showed was pure and clear present danger. Like right down to well, if you don't have any evidence, and then they go, well, here's the evidence. Here's the 15 people. Well, what do they know about anything? Your inner circle? I love the fact that they're singing. I love the fact that they're talking out of turn. Because in this outer side of it, take a look in the outer side of this. This is in the 10th house, it's in the 11th house, right? And look at where all of his planet placements are. Holy moly. Holy shamoles. He's all about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th house. He's all about him, right? He's very comfortable about standing up in front of people, which is why Uranus and the South Node are sitting right there. He's such a jackwagon. You also have Saturn in opposition. Take a look in the 11th house in the outer wheel. You see Saturn sitting there at 22.4, and you've got Saturn in his natal chart at 23.46. That's about as near an opposition as you get from Cancer to Capricorn, right? So what does that mean? In the 5th house, Saturn in the natal chart talks about like a creative. It's kind of why he's a horn dog, quite frankly, because he's got this conjunction with Venus there. It's kind of like I understand women. Do you want to see it? Like he's just kind of got that. Well, Saturn in the outer wheel. Let's go over to the 11th house again. You've got Saturn in a wide conjunct with the Sun. And oh, by the way, also with a little bit of Pluto action here. So you've got this conjunct with Pluto, which is power based thing. Saturn with a structure thing, and the sun with just this energy of like it's time to kind of shed light on this. You got Mercury. So in this 10 degrees, you've got Mercury, the sun, Saturn, and Pluto. You've got power, structure, enlightenment, and communication. Guess what? It is all in opposition with who he is. It's not for the greater good. It's not for the friends and family. It's a disastrous day for his career, dare I say. It is not something you can easily overcome. Now, he's got this sextile energy with Neptune, right? It's kind of a wide sextile. I don't have the lines drawn, but it goes from near ascension to the seventh house. This is inside enemies, everybody. This is inside it. This is a, you're not going to support me? It'll be great. Buy my NFTs, my non-fungible transferables. Buy my next bullshit. Please tell me nobody bought it. By the way, they have ties to foreign countries that bought it up. He literally laundered money in front of everybody. Everybody. By the way, I looked into the NFT market, and I think there's some value to it. I really appreciated the idea that it could be something of like a blockchain, a new way to use technology and money transfers and that sort of thing. But it's so corrupt and it's so unregulated. Like, I couldn't put my name on it. Anyway, so this whole idea of that day is a flippin' disaster because you're seeing so much emphasis on the exposure, on the cosmic energy of that day was about your career. You should have been nose of the grindstone. Here's my next thing, right? And by the way, most of us were ready to move on. We're like, oh, we got the Trump things done. Okay, great. Who got elected? Whatever. Like it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. We're glad that it happened. Like we were moving on. We were about friends and family. We were about restructuring things. We're coming out of this pandemic. I mean, all these things are really kind of coming to fruition. Well, not the way that this asshat works. His Mercury is also in opposition. Are you seeing how bad of a day this was for Donald Trump? It's stupid how ridiculously his keepers, his tamers, his keep. I don't know what they're called, like parole officers. Get used to it. And by the way, I'm not gloating at somebody's downfall. I'm, twice the pride, twice the fall. The Google the pride, the Google the fall. Do you know what a Google is? It's an infinite number. This dude's day is right here. And by the way, if we're going to do a full analysis on this, I just want to also mention that Chiron, the great healer, was in opposition here to his natal chart. Now, again, it's not direct, but we've got first to seventh energy. Chiron, of course, is about the healing energy. And by the way, this is what I also talk about in my upcoming class, self-care astrology. These are the things to take a look at. So if you're in your mid-70s and your Chiron is as far away as possible, it's kind of something you got to kind of deal with, right? You got to be able to kind of work within that. But for him, for the verbose man that he is, if I was teaching him, I would say this is a time to really reflect on what you healed from, because you may not be applying the lessons. So Chiron is that K symbol, looks like a key. And Aries is a hard lesson bringer, man. Being a Chiron and Aries myself, I go through my last return. I kind of do what we're about to talk about in the Pluto returns, where it comes over once, goes retrograde, and comes back again. You will heal 3 times. Or not. Working on it. But just taking a look at this, let's just say in summary, this is like not a good day for Donald Trump. Not a good day for him to lead the revolution. Not a good day for him to become everything that he thinks, better than Lincoln, better than Washington. Maybe I'm your favorite, maybe I'm not. On this day, he was nobody's favorite. Just to let you know, even his supporters. Look at that 7th house. And look at that first house energy of Neptune. Oh. And by the way, I can't not say this. Venus was in the 12th house for him. Venus was in the 12th house. Who's representative of the 12th house for him, of Venus? Could it be, I don't know, Lady Liberty? America's always referred to as a she, don't you think? I love the narrative. So basically, the transit chart of January 6th is in complete opposition of the primary of his natal chart. Not a good day, dude. Not a good day. Now I want to take a look at I want to take a look at a little three-way action, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. By the way, I refuse to put a picture of him up right now. I just can't do it. So, United States of America, my country, 'tis of thee, July 4th. We're gonna go Philadelphia for this one. Doesn't matter a whole bunch, but I know my history. And then, of course, on the middle wheel is our Pluto return. I've got another one where we're going to talk about this because the Pluto return and the congressional referral are right on top of each other. You're going to see the outer sides of it go there. But I wanted to do kind of a cross comparison to talk about what the United States is going through. I wanted to show you this. Now, what we all feel, what many astrologers feel with this Pluto return is a Pluto return is the return to a basic. It's a return to your power base. Let's talk about the astrology for a second. Let's talk about the meaning of Pluto. Pluto is your power base. It is your regeneration. It is, as I described this a little bit in the Twitch video yesterday, which I know many of you have clicked off and then came back on. Thank you very much. It's about being halfway through the pool, but getting to the end where you can flip around and push off again, right? So these returns are opportunities for you to kind of pull it together, right? By the way, just in case you were wondering, the midpoint of the Pluto return would have been what, 120 years ago? Hey, didn't we have a civil war? So we were really kind of falling apart as a country, and we kind of had to pull it back together when Pluto was in opposition there for those few years, right? Now Pluto's coming back around. Here we come again. And it's in conjunct. That's what a Pluto return is. Now, Pluto went over it once, the point, on 1776, and then it goes back over it again because it went into retrograde. And now it's about to come forward on December 28th is the final U.S. Pluto return. Woohoo! What did we learn? Now, what does this mean that we're going to project forward? What this means is that either we've learned our lesson and we understand what we needed to correct, or we are falling apart as a country. It warmed my cockles, if I could say this, that on December the 19th, Congress came forward and did a referral. Now, listen, a lot of people talk about the Justice Department falling through and all this other stuff. One of the bodies of our government in our checks and balances said, you can't do this. The grown-ups have spoken. I'm not talking about the judiciaries. I'm not talking about the presidential office itself, the executive branch itself. I'm talking about the people that we elected, we the people, in a multi-party dialogue said, Donald, you can't do this. We will not let it stand. You took a shot at who we are. It is the best thing that's happened to the country. Thank you, Donald Trump, you accidental hero. He gave us the sometimes you have people in your life that are complete assholes, and they give you the opportunity to do or be the right thing, whether it be by contrast, whether it be by opportunity, whether it be by you finding your voice. There's a lot of things. A lot of things. Donald Trump gave that congressional hearing the legs that it needed. First of all, it gave it its purpose, right? Because who the hell talks like that? Who the hell sits in a thing and saying they're calling for Mike Pence's head and then going, no, are we out of catch up? Like, do we have to go back to his chart? It was an asshole day. He should have eaten his fries and gone to sleep. That's what he should have done. But instead, that's not what he did. But it gave Liz Cheney, Hunzinger, Raskins, Um, oh gosh, why am I'm drawing the chairman who was so well spoken and so eloquent with how he presented things, how he presided. Um, there's a dynamic here that the United States actually has a shot now. You could I don't even care if you're a Trumper. If you're still siding with him, you're not really willing to look at anything. "Oh, it's a conspiracy. Oh, it's this." The conspiracy theory bullshit has spun out of control because the United States government failed to tell the truth in so many ways because it was a need to know basis. There's not transparency. And it started, or at least it began to be highlighted with the Kennedy assassination. It was perpetuated during 9/11. It was continued by things like the bank fallout rescues. It was perpetuated by all of these things that we can talk about that we're like, you never tell us the truth. So guess what? We're going to create our own dialogue. And this shyster carpetbagger who has changed parties 5 times, guys. He's not a Republican. He is a Trump, period. He doesn't give a rat's ass about your politics. He doesn't give a rat's ass about a woman's body. He doesn't give a rat's ass about what's inside the Bible. He does not care. He is a grifter. He is the creation of everything that was wrong with this country. This Pluto return is 100% the look and reflection of what are you going to clean up? How do you want this to look? Do you want the American dream to be able to go bankrupt whenever the things get close? Do you want somebody who's completely unqualified to run the biggest job in the country? Donald Trump was a necessary evil. Love him or hate him. He's making us look at ourselves and say, what do we want? Take a look at this chart. Take a look at what's going on in here. First of all, we're coming up on a Chiron return, or on a Chiron return. I'm going to talk about that later because there's succession things. We've got specific eclipses that have happened. I'm drawing a line here. The eclipses that have happened. We have things like the Saturn return. We're going to talk about that here in a second. We're also going to talk about how, as we kind of spin around the sun, the United States continues to either evolve into something that we end up hating and we can't associate with. This is why the American dream is, quote, dead, because it's become this Trump thing. It's like, well, I don't want to be morally bankrupt and do what he does. So that's why we feel detached from it. The American dream is, how do you lawyer up? That man has hired more lawyers than the bottom 20 states have in their territories. The man has had over 17,000 lawyers through the course of his career. There was something in Forbes about 6 months ago where they were talking about why he couldn't do it. And he said, arguably, he's had over 17,000 lawyers. Isn't that crazy? And by the way, Michael Cohen, who actually stood up to this and got railroaded, was the last stand. It was the straw that made all the other lawyers go, oh shit. And as much as Michael Cohen did something wrong, he knew it was ethically wrong, but he was getting paid. He since did his time and he's reconciled that. His book is pretty fantastic. He basically talks about a man of a psychopath that influenced this. Now, why are we talking about Trump with this? Take a look at the outside of the referral and then look at the inside. First of all, in the fourth house is where the Pluto return is happening. The fourth house is about your foundation. You want to talk about why the United States is great? Pluto is in the fourth house in Capricorn. That's why America can be great. We got our shit together. We know who we are. We know about family. We know about pride. It doesn't mean we invade other countries. It means we know who we are as a people. We're based in flawed and all. By the way, Capricorns are flawed, just to let you know. They're like, I see the mole. I don't need that. It's perfect skin. I'm just making shit up. But there's an aspect here that I really have to drive home. I want you to take a look at the grand cross that's going on here. On the inside, the North Node is in Leo. And again, in the 10th house, really kind of zoom up into that. Your 10th house has a Leo in the North Node. The South Node is in Aquarius. That is fixed energy, people. Fixed energy. It's a fixed energy grand cross for the nodes. By the way, any of you tarot people out there, take a look at the tarot card. Take a look at the Wheel of Fortune card. It is the fixed energy signs. It is Leo to Aquarius. It is Scorpio to Taurus. Oh, look at that. In the second house, and by the way, it's done in opposition. It is done in opposition. I'm going to explain this. So the North Node is in Leo. The South Node for the United States is in Aquarius. We should be comfortable with we the people and defending other people. Leo in the North Node, I will defend you. I am meant to be your guardian. The South Node in Aquarius, we should be comfortable about the utilitarian use of the greater good of people. Holy shit, we've been founded at the right time. Now, in transit, take a look at the outer wheel. We are in Scorpio in the South Node. Hey, we're kind of comfortable with secrets, man. The North Node, but it's time to do the right thing. In Taurus, let's be practical. This isn't working anymore. These shysters have got to go. This grand fixed cross of the North and South nodes tell you everything about how fucking painful this is going to be. Because it's going to happen one way or the other, right? Donald Trump is going to get rectified. The shysters are going to be rectified. Congress is going to have to take a hard look at itself and say, you know those pork belly thingies that we put into every single thing and my district gets money and then I eventually get a check and a fundraiser? Yeah, we're going to have to take a look at that. It's in the chart, everybody. It's in the chart. The other dynamic with this, with the idea that the rising sign is coming over the natal Chiron in the 7th house, we have to take a hard look at how the world sees us. They're taking a look at us as to whether or not we're like, did they just let that happen? Because they were the ones that came in to lecture us about how we needed structure, stability, a police force, free and clear elections and all this other stuff. The world's watching. Notice what's also happening in the 10th, 11th, and 12th house, and even the first house for that matter, in this transit. Nothing. Nothing. Do you know why? Because we got to sit down. Nobody's coming through that door to help us. Britain, you were our big brother. Thank you very much. We don't need your help. We got to sit down and we got to figure this out. Our 10th house is about our persona. We can create it. At the end of Nostradamus's quatrains, he wrote another book. And it was really just pictures. And one of the terrifying pictures that people talk about all the time is that Nostradamus held up a book with nothing written and crosses over his eyes. A lot of people interpret it like, oh, that's the end of the world. Well, there's no dates, there's no timing, there's no whatever. A lot of people interpreted it as in uh it's everything's white free. In astrology, when you have these voids, when you have these vacancies, it's about creating your own energy. It's like, hey, the astrology is like, listen, we're going to focus in on this over here, but you can do whatever you want in those houses. As a country, we can do what we want to be perceived as. By the way, the 11th house is about those external communications, those external connections, the connector. Who do we want to connect with? A lot of conflict in the Baltics right now, all of a sudden. A lot of conflicts in Iran, a lot of conflicts in China. I just totally, a lot of, and what have you. There's a lot of things with let me go to the basement in Mar-a-Lago, and I think I've got them in an offsite. I may have to go get them, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. Jackass. But it's up to us to decide how that looks. Another aspect into this is how in opposition the sun is. Now I know in the inner for the US Pluto return, the sun is in opposition with itself, Cancer to Capricorn. Why do you think that is? Maybe our light's supposed to go a little dark. Maybe we got to go through a little bit of an ego death. Maybe we don't lead an insurrection when our sun is at the furthest. You jackwagon. If he just hired an astrologer and actually listened to him, because he doesn't listen to anybody, but the fact that this is in the third house and it's right on the cusp, kids, like it right on a cusp, like we just into Cappy. And then with the Cancerian energy, I mean, look at the US birth chart on the inner wheel here. The ninth and 10th house are loaded. They're loaded because we're about that education. We're about that fiery energy of the ninth house. And then we're about the practicality of the 10th house. You have Sagittarius representing the ninth, Capricorn representing the 10th, combined with, I mean, we were built on duality, everybody. And I'm not getting into the poor choices of the anything of the founding fathers. What I'm talking about is, let's be real. Then I want you to pay attention to Neptune. Neptune in the 12th house. If we are delusional as a country, when we were created, we are screwed. Now we are getting the very practical Neptune transit through the 6th house, through Virgo, in Earth sign. Ding, 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 ding. Although it is in Pisces. So Neptune in Virgo in the 12th house represents to us the idea that if we have balance, our dreams can come true. It's that simple. If they're practical, they can come true. And by the way, as a country, our rising sign is a Libra. Justice, the scales. How much more symbolism do you need? And by the way, go ahead and take a look at the moon placement. Yep, it's in Aquarius in the 5th house, which, by the way, is a tricky placement. But the moon in Aquarius is really about love it or leave it. Do what you do, bro. Boo. Do what you do, boo. Nobody needs to tell you anything different. You're an amazing soul. You can do whatever it is you want to. Love who you want. Love the one you're with. But if you don't like me, I don't like you. Okay. But that Neptune energy in opposition also is ripping apart the American dream. That's why we're all struggling right now. As a country, we're looking at this going, what's this place we live in? And by the way, change is inevitable. It's a good thing at the end of the day. If you stay stuck, you're screwed. But if you grow and you evolve and you pay attention to things like this is a good time to take a look at what is the American dream. Why don't we look at that? By the way, just a little bit of a closer thing to this. I took out the middle wheel here so that we can see it. Again, you see very clearly on the day of referral, Neptune in Pisces in opposition to Neptune in Virgo is a really good thing, where the 12th house is kind of undoing. This is a stabilization, believe it or not. Yes, they were doing something they had never really had to do before. So that Piscean energy of like creativity and Pisces really do the right thing at the end of the day. They play with fire like it's nobody's business, but yeah. But Neptune in opposition allows you to say, like, this is the dream we're having. And the 6th house is about what's close to you, what's home, what's hitting home, right? And again, this really kind of highlights, the ninth house, and again, the ninth house represented by Sagittarius being Mars in retrograde in Gemini. I mean, that's just, they overcame that. They really did overcome that. And probably because Mars is coming up on its Mars. I mean, we kind of got a wide conjunct there. Yeah, it's a wide conjunct. I mean, it's within 10. But representatively, in the ninth house is this is lessons learned. This is Liz Cheney sitting up there and going, we recognize that he was unfit. That ain't us. That's what she's saying. And by the way, do you notice the square? The Mars square to Neptune? This is like your delusions are done. There are no more illusions. There is no more American dream. You live in a country where a former president tried to overthrow our process to regain power and not give it back. Is that the country we are? Mars comes in and says to Neptune, nope. You can kiss my left astrobule. Get out of here. There's no more of that. You've got opposition of, let's just go down it. Holy crap. You've got Mercury. Mercury in opposition. Mercury in the 4th house in transit right now. Mercury in the 10th house. In other words, we're going to speak up for other people in our natal chart. But right now, this is about, come here. We got to talk about this. We're going to talk about this when we get it. We need a family meeting. You've got Mercury and Uranus and Pluto together in a wide conjunct here. This is going to be very important. Very important. And again, this is about 8 days beforehand, and I can all but guarantee, I'm going to go back to this other one. I'm glad I did this 3-way. I'm glad I'm having a 3-way here. Stop, everybody. Stop. But keep those emails coming. So, taking a look at this in the 3-way, take a look at where Mercury is. Yeah, so Mercury, on the day of the return, is really conjunct with Uranus. We're going to talk about our rebellion the right way. We're getting back to basics, and it's going to be in the 4th house. Right? Our country, 'tis of thee. We're going to talk, our action is going to be about, let's get back to some basics here. Let's remember about us. Is it going to be a conversation about logical things that need to happen with immigration? Let's hope so. It's still a problem. We can't go shipping people up to Boston. Although it's a great tune. We can't have, we put governors in this incredibly tough spot to manage a border with conflicting things. Upper management goes, oh, we need to accept everybody. Lower management is like, yeah, well, you deal with the customer service desk. That's the equivalent. And why we haven't gone full Karen as to a plan with this. What is the benefit? This is where conspiracies run rampant. Oh, well, more immigrants that come in and then they can vote. They always go Democrat. So it's a Democrat conspiracy. Whatever. By the way, the percentage of immigrants that actually vote while they're illegal is less than 18%. By the way, of those, most of the ballots that are thrown out are of immigrants because they don't know the language and don't follow the directions. There's a problem with our process here, guys. Give us your poor and huddled masses. There is a sweet spot where we can be comforting and respectful and not give away the farm. We're learning what a boundary is, not a border. This isn't about borders. It's about boundaries. You want to make this country great? Have boundaries, not borders. That's why I'm running for yours, state senator. I guess I just see it. Because when I look at this and I see the influence of Mercury into this, it's not what I originally thought I was going to talk about. But I see the influence with this of the 4th house. This 4th house, especially with the Pluto returns, is everything. It really is. It is in opposition to the sun. It is when we were formed, our power base, we didn't have power. Now we have power. What are we doing with it? We're corrupting it. Let's not do that. Let's do it so that then people like Ukraine don't get invaded. And by the way, Ukraine's not innocent. I know that. But I'm going to say it this way. Those school children that were getting bombed, they didn't fucking deserve it. Sorry, I said it. Vladimir Putin does not belong in power. He just doesn't. He has abused it. Donald J. Trump shouldn't even be your local dog catcher. I'm the dog catcher here. I'm just going to take all your jewelry. The jewelry's attached to the kids, so I'm just going to go ahead and it's a safety thing. It's like shiny, and here's some NFTs. He will abuse his power to the nth degree. I was those of you that are reading the book, and thank you very much, available on Amazon. Funny you should say that. Brandon Ross is the author. Um, I had you know I'm a baseball coach, and there's some fun stuff in there about base, just a little bit. I've got more to write about that, but I was in a league where somebody who was in charge of the league suspended me when we played like 9 games in 10 days, and we had one more game that got rescheduled. They gave us an impossible schedule. The weather was incredible. We had no pitchers. It was just one of those things. And then the playoffs started the next day. And I said, listen, if it doesn't affect the standings, what do we do about forfeiting the game? And she said, you can't do that. You're fired. You're suspended. I'm like, for asking a question? What? That's somebody that's Donald Trumpisms. That is 100% like, as in, like, I don't really like you, so I'm just going to pull out an obscure rule and just like, that's the stuff that we're uncovering. That's the stuff that we're saying, nah, 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 nah. And by the way, people that are election deniers need to be held accountable. People that had Donald Trump circled from the beginning for his ill-fated success also need to be called out. Listen, guys, Barack Obama wasn't an incredible president. He was good by most standards, but he did some pretty devious shit. George W. Bush was a lackey. He actually is not a bad human, but he had no boundaries. Barack Obama's boundaries were about his legacy. He was in the long game from the beginning. It's all about, how is my portrait going to look? How am I going to, how are the, where, what will be pinned on me? And what will be, so that's why I have Flashy Joe as my vice and our bro code. Like, he was all about the show too. Don't think he wasn't. But he didn't do this shit. He might have given some banks some money that didn't deserve it and really needed to fail. But he didn't do this. What he did is he set the stage and allowed certain things to slip by. Oh, they found what on her hard drive? Oh, well, I don't want Hillary to look bad. She's in my cabinet. Let's let that slide. It's amazing the slippery slope that we're all culpable. We're all culpable here. And the sooner we stop blaming everybody and start holding ourselves accountable, the better it's going to be. All right, guys. God bless America during this return. God bless all of our troops from around the world. Know that we're going to get this right. Know that your work is not done in vain. Um, on Christmas Day, we talk about November 11th. And Veterans Day, we talk about Memorial Day, we talk about Labor Day, Labor Day not so much. We talk about the 4th of July. Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're fully staffed in the United States military. Yeah, you have some people on leave, but everybody gets vacation time, still place of employment. Give a shout out to the military, to the police, to the frontline medical. Your ERs are staffed. I mean, it's strained, but they're staffed. Your EMS service is going to get there within 10 minutes if your 911 call goes out. We have to start recognizing what we do right in this country. People that do public service are nothing short of the angels that we've needed to get this far. And I'm talking about good public servants too. I could go down a rant on somebody that's retiring. But listening to John Boehner talk about Nancy Pelosi, um, first of all, I should pull the John Boehner chart and see how much feminine energy he has. Uh, it's endearing. But to have her husband attacked and then be brutalized in the media with false rumors and just frankly bullshit is another low point we got to move from. She's a public servant. And again, if you don't like her policies, and trust me, I think she should be investigated up the ass. All right, that was too much. But her shady shit's got to go. But in terms of her willingness to stand in the front line, she paid the price and her husband got beaten for it. Come on, guys, this isn't our country. Call her out in Congress. Call her full of crap. Show a trail of paper that makes her held accountable. That's how we should do it. You don't show up at a guy's house with a hammer. You don't you don't spit on the cop and tell him it's his fault that the structure isn't working. You don't remind a nurse who's putting the life force back into you in an IV that you know your goddamn rights as a patient. Fuck you. They're God's gift to you. Because 200 years ago, you'd be dead. We have got to get off our high horse as a community, as a country, and as a people. This Pluto return is our chance to at least get the country part in the right direction. My heart tap goes out to all those men and women that are working on the days where you don't want to. My heart tap goes out to the people that are too freaking tired to do it again, yet they do. I see you. I hear you. I talk to you. To the teachers that are burned out, to the counselors that can't take on another patient, but they know if they don't get to that one, it could be the difference maker. My heart tap goes out to the people that have been putting humanity first and their belief of how to help one another before the idea of their own popularity, their own glory, and their own toil, even to their own peril. That is the antithesis of overcoming what we just lived through. Here's the heart tap, guys.